Happy Wealth Wednesday. So excited that you are here to chat. You've been such an inspiration of your story, being in college, living this incredible life, having this plan in traditional finance, and then really quickly becoming what is like an expert in this new crazy world of Web3 and DAOs. And so I'm so excited to share your story and to have you here today.
Yeah, so I'm Regan. I'm currently in college. I'm graduating this semester from USC. And when I was here, I just pursued traditional finance. I pursued a business administration degree. And the entire time I was just on track to go into traditional banking. My brother just randomly started talking about Constitution DAO. And I remember him having to tell me what a DAO was multiple times. Because when you think DAO, it's like Dow Jones, what's going on here? And I remember him just being like, oh yeah, there's community stuff. And I still don't remember how it even came up. But throughout the course, there was 2 weeks, we traveled across London and Ireland. And I remember just being very envious, but then also realizing, oh, there maybe is a space for me here. Long story short, we kind of drop it, but he's like, we're listening to podcasts about crypto, whatever. I go home and it was just winter break and I was bored. And so I follow up with him. I'm like, hey, that DAO thing. And he tells me to join Index because he's like, hey, I'm not personally in DAOs, but my friend is. And that's literally just how it started. Joined Index, first day, was able to talk to two people, shout out Kind Eagle and at the Young Cruise, my two favorite people ever. And literally overnight after those two calls, I kind of had my little Twitter virality moment, going from 4, then waking up with 300 followers and going to bed with nearly 1,000. So that's how it all started. And now it's here, about 2.5 months later.
I cannot wait to dive in, especially to that story, because it's really interesting how overnight your first few friends can just totally catapult you. One of our first questions we always start with is, what was your first ever investment and what got you started?
I remember it was actually my finance, intro to finance class at USC, where the professor was like, I'm going to make you read the Wall Street Journal every morning. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was like that. And I just remember being and I'm so thankful. So it's actually such a great habit to put me into. And I remember we just learned about portfolio, investments. And I remember just being divesting and diversifying. And I thought to myself, maybe I'll just throw in $500. Okay, which is a lot, but for me as a college student, but I was just sort of passively investing in that. And then I'll never forget, it was actually a friend who sent me crypto, very randomly as a gift. When it was so low, he sent me 2 Ethereum a couple years ago, when it was so freaking low. And I remember I very stupidly, because it was a gift, and he was like, oh, you can just leave it in there. I was like, for what? I just didn't understand. And I'm kicking myself because 2 ETH right now would be a lot more money than it was. So those were my 2 first investments, which I totally was either passively managing or totally fumbled and cashed out. ETFs, because I thought to myself, I don't know, it's advertised as really beginner friendly. And I think especially back then, I was a lot more risk averse. I would still say I like to take risks, but really educated ones. And so I think when I'm less educated, I'll just go with risk averse tendencies.
Do you remember what platform was it
Robinhood. Oh yeah, I'm classic, Coinbase was my first, I'm a classic gal.
Maybe share a little bit how and why did you get into the space?
I really had no idea how Discord worked. And I remember I just created it and joined it, and it was the introductions channel. And I just I just wrote something little paragraph hi, I'm Regan. I'm a senior, or I'm upcoming senior, I'm about to be graduating. I don't know anything about blockchain or whatever I said. And I remember it was Kind Eagle who was oh, hi. And something he said that was really, again, there's certain moments that I think really helped cement my path was, feel free to reach out for a one-on-one if you want to chat. So firstly, it was someone responding to me was huge. I firmly believe I wasn't in it enough, even with my brother, kind of directing me, to have taken the leap myself. But also, I guess I just didn't realize, sometimes I know there was real people, but I just forgot that you can reach out Zoom or Discord or call these people or audio call these people. So I had an audio call with him and Cruz that day, who convinced me to make the Twitter. And I was just like, I had 4 followers. They convinced me to follow like, cool people in the space. So like, you need a crypto Twitter to learn. I was like, okay, I'll get a freaking Twitter. It's just this little tweet, but it blew up and it was like, hey, to my 4 followers, like tweeting is so awkward, but I'm so glad like my 4 followers are in Web3 or like something like that. And I get a DM from Kind Eagle and he's like, hey, did you realize you're blowing up on like Twitter? You have 300 followers. I was like, what? Because I didn't even check. Like I literally did not care. Like at the time, because I was like, why would I have ever thought that? I didn't think it was gonna get a single like, or maybe like a pity like from Cruz and Eagle. And that's how it started. But now in Index, my role is, I guess a bit more low touch because I'm doing a lot of things, but I help out a lot with women in Index. And truly that community, the DAO community is why I'm here. I don't think I know it's why I'm here. And it's so valuable. Whether you're low touch or high touch or full time in a DAO, it's so valuable. And I know for me personally, like, I come from a finance background, like I'm almost like primed it should be an easy pipeline for me to be here. And I think the stars aligned for me to be here. So hopefully it'll be easier for people to get onboarded, but it's so lucky. I really got so lucky.
I think it's so special. And now you have over 7,000 followers. So that's amazing.
That's so weird. That is weird.
It also means that you have moved into this role of being able to influence, which I think is really special. And so that's kind of the next question we typically ask is, what role do you play in the wealth space?
I remember speaking with someone who she was early, early. It's for all early, but like 2018, she was in college and she was saying like there was like no resources out there. Like literally nothing really on the internet that you could find about like wallets and stuff that we now take so for granted. But I still kind of realized to myself, I'm like, yes, there's a lot of information, but a lot of it's not digestible. And then a lot of it is where like, even if they're able to read it, they may not have actionable steps to take after it. Like there needs to be a proper pipeline or a proper setup where people feel like they either have community or a support system to actually get involved. And so I think that's sort of just what I've wanted my Twitter to be. I've always tried to keep my DMs open. Sometimes I get overwhelmed, but I literally try to respond to everyone that I can. I try to point people in the right direction. I write where I try to synthesize hard topics because I always say like, I'm not a dev. I did not do well in my Python class at school. Like, no. So I just want to make it even more digestible and almost friendly and fun because I'm envious of people that like love to read. I'm trying to get more back into it, but I have a short attention span. So I thought to myself when I was like learning about all this, I was like, gosh, this is a lot of words, isn't it? What if I can make this a little easier to read? So I feel like the wealth that I've been able to add to the space or cultivate because of the incredible people that I've met and that have sort of like mentored me, whether they realize that they've mentored me or not, has been really incredible. And I just really have like, even the people that follow me, they've become friends. So many people have just become incredible friends of mine. And they just pushed me to try new things and to constantly just be honest and vulnerable on my Twitter. It's been a really great experience.
It's so special. What do you think has been the most exciting thing that you've learned that you would want others to know?
Oh, that's a great question. I think the most exciting thing that I've learned is that really like when you imagine like the world around you, it also can be the world in which you create here. And I feel like so often I felt like things were inaccessible to me. I mean, I felt I was on like such a rigid path and I had, I was 18, didn't really know what I wanted to do, knew I wanted, okay, like, to learn something. So I picked business kind of willy-nilly. And then my school is like really focused on banking. So then I learned banking technical skills and remember interview prepped for hours and hours about like these nuanced banking questions that like I clearly did not really know what I was talking about, but to prep for the interview. And I remember when I entered Web3, I was like really certain that I don't want to say I wasn't enough, but I felt like what I had could not really be transferable. And I truly do believe the best thing that I've learned is that every single person can bring a sense of value into the space in very different ways. The way I add value, the way that you add value are different. The way that anyone adds value is different. It may be on the influence level. It may be not at all. Some people who I know are some of the most incredible people in the space have like -0 Twitter presence, or they don't write, or they aren't hosting Twitter spaces, or they aren't leading their calls in their DAOs. I think there is a space for a lot of people because I think there's just so much room for creativity, for growth, and for ideas. And I think people are really bullish on ideas in this space. So I think it's like come as you are, because yes, you can learn skills that help you like actually optimize it, like learning about DAOs and stuff. But I think people as they are, just yes, their background can or cannot help. Like they may use it or not, but I think it's people. I think people are so much more capable than we give ourselves credit for. And we know a lot more, or we're able to learn more than we give ourselves credit for. So yes, long story short, constantly learning and constantly realizing that I'm not defined by my formal education as much as someone who did not graduate college is not defined by their lack thereof, that formal education at the bachelor level.
And is there, I mean, obviously you've mentioned a few, but is there a person or a company that inspires you in this space, and why?
That's a great, yeah. I would say there's, for example, like She256, they are, they're a group of girls who they were, the people that the girl I was actually talking about before, the woman I was talking about before, she's one of them. And she was just telling me about how like they do like this incredible mentorship program. And I think that they're just really incredible. The work that they do is really incredible. And they have helped onboard so many women into this space. So I'm really, like even when building helping build an NFT project now that's dedicated to onboarding women, I take so much inspiration from them and think that they're just incredibly inspiring. I love the work they do. And also another one is Crypto Besties. This is one of my friends. Like they are really incredible. I love their idea. I think they're actually raising right now. They're want to be like they will be a makeup brand, very Web3 decentralized. I think that they are fun and they give this kind of like space where you can be whoever you want to be and help however you want to contribute.
And then what advice would you give to somebody getting started?
Introduce yourself, reach out to people, say hi, try to schedule one-on-ones, because I think there is a wealth of really incredible people in the space, more than there are bad actors. And I know personally, if someone reached out to me, I would reply. Almost everyone in the space, like unless they really don't have time, for the most part, will respond. Like, of course, if you're reaching out to like someone with a ton of followers, that can be kind of hard, but especially in like a DAO setting, just asking how to help and contribute, but just introducing yourself, because it puts you in that position where, it humanizes you and it humanizes the people that you talk to, whether they're anonymous or, or not. And so it's really just start. It's like, it's like the best way to start without even really starting. Everyone knows how to introduce themselves. Everyone knows how to say hi. And, maybe one little paragraph, like, I'm a student, I do this, I do that. I'm just excited. I'm excited about this. I'd love to learn more about that. And you may have to reach out to someone like, hey, I hear that you do a lot of marketing in this DAO. Like, do you have 15 minutes to chat? And if a DAO like keeps not being receptive, or a DAO or anything like is not being receptive to like you reaching out, then it's not the place for you. That doesn't mean that you don't belong. It means that it's just not the place for you. And that they should probably improve their onboarding. But that's just introduce yourself. That's the biggest thing.
How can we keep in touch with what you're building? What are you doing next? What's your plan? And then how do we follow what you're up to?
Yeah, so obviously my Twitter, I post updates about what I'm up to. I have a Medium and a Mirror where, for example, I just along with my really good friend Allie, this is actually like her kind of like idea baby. We're doing this Fem3 interview series, which is all about interviewing, like in a similar facet to what you're doing, interviewing powerful women in the space and like on Twitter Spaces, and then just doing a little like write up on our Mirror about like the women. And then I also am helping launch an NFT project dedicated to women onboarding. That's Astro Girls. You can follow them on Twitter or join the Discord. And just in general, I think the best way to follow what is going on with me is wherever I have any kind of social handle, particularly Twitter or even my Discord or Telegram, like I'm always available to be reached out to. But I like to talk. So I will be definitely talking a lot about anything that I'm up to in the next coming weeks, months.